in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. Grant them continued wisdom and grace. We ask now your blessings upon these compacted trucks that have been secured for the work of the NSWMA. Protect the drivers, strengthen the waste disposal collectors, help all of us to preserve the dignity and the integrity of our environment. Bless these proceedings today and grant that through our giving and our living, Jamaica will, under God, increase in beauty, fellowship, and prosperity, and play her part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. We pray these things for Christ's sake. Amen.
You may be seated. This is one of the reasons why I love Reverend Carlisle. His prayer is always a prayer of thanksgiving. So I want you to look to your neighbor, to your left and right, and say, give thanks. Yeah, man. Give thanks. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, the Honorable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Community Development, Senator Dr. the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon, Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for skills, digital transformation, and information. Mrs. Marsha Henry Martin, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. Mr. Owen Ellington, the Chairman of the Board of Directors of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, and other members of the board. Mr. Audley Gordon, the Executive Director of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, and the staff members. Mr. Christopher Bicknell, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Tank Weld Group. Other distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Oh, good afternoon. Yeah, man, good afternoon to you. You look good. And today is such a significant day because today is a day that we must celebrate. We must celebrate what is right with Jamaica. This is really government done right today. The National Solid Waste Management Authority has 50 brand new trucks to be deployed across the entire country. That is a moment to applaud. But not only that, in addition to today's 50, when you add everything up, when you do the mathematics, as country people say, it's 165 over a 7-year period. That is absolutely significant. It's significant because in today's day and age, there is misinformation, disinformation, and distorted facts. And the incontrovertible fact today is that we have trucks to deploy across Jamaica to ensure we have a clean environment. And you know, the National Solid Waste Management Authority not only touches on the environment, but it impacts every single sector of our island. So again, well done to the staff, the board, and management of the National Solid Waste Management Authority. But today in our audience, we have some very significant people, the movers and shakers who make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask the staff members, the drivers who are in the audience to just give them a round of applause, but please stand and take a bow. All the staff members, the drivers who are here today, all decked out in their new uniforms, yes. And you will also hear the honking of the horns for the new truck and trucks that's outside. There you go. Well done. Thank you so much. All right, I'm not gonna stop. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So, ladies and gentlemen, a man who gets the job done. He really does have steady hands. He's proven himself, and he's at the National Solid Waste Management Authority to also help to transform and further help the authority to do even greater things. May I invite Mr. Owen Ellington, CD, JP, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the NSWMA, to give the official welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam MC, Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, Ministers of Government, Permanent Secretary, members of the Board of Directors of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, specially invited guests, Mr. Brooks Bicknell, staff of the agency, members of the media. In my capacity as chairman for the National Solid Waste Management Authority Board, I'd like to extend to you a warm, indeed warm welcome to this occasion. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the authority may possibly be in its best shape ever. In recent years, under the able guidance of the board led by outgoing chair Mr. Dennis Chung and the management of the authority, it has transformed itself and improved on corporate governance in such a way that it now represents the gold standard in public bodies management in Jamaica. With my assumption of the post of chairman of the board, I have made it clear to the board and the management that building on the very solid base that we have in terms of governance and management, we are going to focus on operational efficiency. And this is most relevant today because of what is taking place here. Because today, we are commissioning 50 assorted pieces of the most modern equipment in this industry to the authority. This, for me, signals an occasion where the government is demonstrating its continued commitment to building the operational capabilities of its agencies, but it also signals to us a challenge to do better and improve on what we do. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the assurance of the Executive Director that the deployment of these equipment has been done based on the most careful and objective assessment of needs across the various regions. I also have his assurance that the use, care, management, and maintenance of these equipment will be done in such a way that not only will they improve service delivery and reach all the corners, indeed some of the most rural parts of Jamaica, but that they will be around to last and serve us for a long time to come. With these few words, ladies and gentlemen, I want to again thank you for coming, welcome you to this function, and hope you have a very wonderful afternoon here with us. Thank you.
He gets it done succinctly and efficiently. Thank you so much, Mr. Ellington. May I offer just a bit of an apology? You know, when family members move together, they look alike sometimes, even if they're not twins, right? Bruce, my apologies. I call you your brother Christopher, right? Mr. Bruce Bicknell is the one who is here. He is a director of Tankwell Metal. So thank you, Bruce, for being here with us. You know, when you're going through transformation, it's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, that we want to see the end product and not the process. And if you look back, even over the last 7, 8 years, you'd recognize that the National Solid Waste Management Authority has gone through a significant transformation. The head of the entity, for me, reminds me of the little engine that could and that has done it. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to, though he's not speaking, to Mr. Audley Gordon, the man who is on the ground, who continues to work to ensure that we get it done and get it done right. Another man who is hardworking, who ensures that we get local government done right, is a man who's been there for a long time with steady hands. May I invite the Honorable Desmond McKenzie, CD, MP, JP, the Minister of Local Government and Community Development, to bring remarks.
Thank you, Naomi. Most Honorable Prime Minister, colleague, Cabinet Minister, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government, and I want to acknowledge a very important lady who plays a pivotal role in working with the National Solid Waste Management Authority, Mrs. Anisha Gordon-McFarlane from the ministry, the person who is responsible for making the funds readily available to MSWMA. The new chairman of the board, and I want to publicly, at this function, extend my thanks and appreciation to the outgoing board and to the past chairman, Dennis Chung, who did a fantastic job in leading the organization for the many years that he has served. And to the board members who significantly we would have retained most of the members of the board who had contributed significantly to the turnaround of the organization. I want to thank you for your service and I ask you to continue to give more. Mr. Ellington, welcome. Solid waste is not what it was before. It is not waste. It has become an important part of Jamaica's development, and I am quite sure that under your stewardship, the organization will progress and we will see greater gains. Acknowledgement was made earlier on to the workers. And you know, Prime Minister, and all we do, if we don't have these people executing and doing the job, then we can't come up here and speak glowingly in the way that we do. And you must all be commended for a job well done. You know, many years ago when Martin Luther King came to Jamaica, and he was speaking at the University of the West Indies, when he spoke to the audience, he stressed the importance of doing the job and do it well. And he said, even if you are sweeping the street, ensure that you sweep it well, do it with pride. And I want to say, to salute you, the workers, you have made Jamaica proud. And that is why this administration has made it possible that after you have served your country, you are able to feel secure because your government, the government of Prime Minister Andrew Holness, has made over 4,000 workers permanent in the system. Never before. We have given you job security. Today we are here to receive or to hand over another set of trucks. I want to spend just a few minutes on the crane trucks. You know, Jamaicans, every street, every lane, every avenue you turn, you see abandoned cars. Garages have taken over the roadways. What we are seeing, therefore, is a reduction in the use of our sidewalks. On some roadways, traffic has been reduced to single lane with no consideration for people going about their lawful business. When I spoke in the sectoral presentation in Parliament a couple of weeks ago, I made the announcement. And once these trucks have been handed over, officially, the National Solid Waste Management Authority will now move expeditiously to bring law and order to our roads and our sidewalks. We are going to be moving them. We are giving notice. They have started already. And with these new trucks, I am calling on Jamaicans to support us in this effort. It makes no sense you call the radio program and complain about your abandoned trucks and motor vehicles. And when we start to enforce and move it, you talk about this poor people business we're destroying. We can have the best of both worlds. And I would urge Jamaicans, move it, or we will move it for you. I am pretty confident that the National Solid Waste Management Authority is committed to the task. And over the years, we have seen significant improvement in the work of the organization. And this government will continue to provide the support that is needed to make the organization work. Never before in its history has so much being invested, not just in equipment, but in the human resources of the organization. That is why it is difficult to get a job at solid waste, because everybody wants to be a part of the National Solid Waste Management Authority. Mr. Executive Director, I want to commend you and your team. And I want to call on Jamaicans to continue to lend its support to this important bit of institution in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it's my pleasure to bring to address you now the main address, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Thank you, Minister Mackenzie. I'm almost tempted to say Mayor. That was another life. Thank you, Master of Ceremonies, Naomi. I was almost tempted to say Naomi Campbell. Naomi Francis. And our pastor in residence, Reverend Astor Carlyle, for your prayers. I can't mistake your name for anyone else's. Senator Dr. the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon, Minister without portfolio in my office. Mrs. Marsha Henry Martin, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. Mr. Owen Ellington. I'm not going to say Commissioner of Police. Chairman of the Board of Directors of the National Solid Waste Management Authority. Mr. Audley Gordon, Executive Director of the National Solid Waste Management Authority. Mr. Bruce Bicknell, representing the Thankful Group. Other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and a special acknowledgement to the well-uniformed members of the National Solid Waste Authority. Today we gather to mark a significant milestone in our ongoing journey to improve waste management and public health in our communities. As we continuously seek ways to improve the services offered to our citizens, it is with immense pride that we officially hand over 50 new garbage trucks to the National Solid Waste Management Authority. This is a testament to your government's commitment to maintaining a clean and sustainable environment for all Jamaicans. There will come a time when we no longer have ceremonies for handing over garbage trucks. But we are not at that point yet. It's a big deal and we have to make a big deal over it. There's quite a bit of public narrative around what is happening in Jamaica. And sometimes the narrative is not complete. It doesn't take into consideration the full context. It doesn't account for a period of time in Jamaica when we simply didn't have the resources to invest in our fleet of garbage collection equipment. We just didn't have the resources. Since this administration, however, we have been steadily and consistently investing in our fleet of garbage collection equipment. In 2016, when we just took over, we were able to do 4 garbage trucks. In 2017, we were able to do 13 garbage trucks. In 2018, we did 17 garbage trucks. In 2019, we did 11 garbage trucks. Steadily investing and renewing the fleet, which was not significant, was old, could not provide the service that we need. And even during the pandemic in 2020, we were still able to invest in our fleet. We bought 20 new garbage trucks even during the pandemic. So, by the way, this is the first time that any government has been consistently increasing and renewing the fleet. First time. In 2022, we made our largest acquisition yet, with 50 new garbage trucks. And now, today, we proudly add another 50 new garbage trucks, bringing the fleet to 165 new trucks. That's the largest number of new equipment that has ever been added to the fleet of the NSWMA. We're doing this at a cost of 1.3 billion Jamaican dollars. We're not borrowing this money. This is not a grant. This is a direct result of the effective and disciplined management of the economy. That we are able to do this out of our own resources. And as the economy continues to be stable, and as it continues to grow, we are going to make a priority out of allocating the dividends of that growth to ensuring that we have the capabilities of keeping our municipalities, our townships, keeping your road, your beaches, your parks, your markets clean. So, what you're seeing here is a significant investment in keeping Jamaica clean. Now, notice that I've used the term garbage truck, and then I might say equipment. Because it is not only trucks that we need, the typical compactor trucks. We need other equipment. And within this addition of 50 new trucks, Some of them are crane trucks, which are necessary to lift heavy loads. And I'm not going to go into the detail that Minister Mackenzie went into to say that we now have the capabilities to remove old cars and other abandoned equipment and bulky waste that are left on the side of our roads. We now have that capability, and within the law we intend to use it. So you will see not just an improvement in the collection of plastics and other forms of domestic waste, you will see an improvement in our capabilities to remove bulky waste items from our streets and markets and parks. We also have in this lot of trucks, tipper trucks. Again, another important capability. So these are trucks that you will be able to top load, probably using the crane trucks or forklifts or backhoes or excavators, and you will be able to carry much more load in these tipper trucks, and you will now be able to go to designated areas and then offload. So that gives greater capabilities, not just to carry organic waste or plastics, but you now have the ability to move, for example, construction waste, heavy debris. So that adds another capability to the NSWMA. Heavier kinds of bulky waste. And then we have some trucks that are called scouts. Scouts. And these are smaller trucks that are able to articulate in our lanes and small roads. Because there are some areas where the conventional size compactor trucks just simply cannot go. And so these little trucks that we call them scouts, they will be able to go into the nook and cranny to actually get at your solid waste. Now, this new addition of equipment, as you can see, will increase the service quality and capability of the NSWMA. So we can now tackle bulky waste. We can now go into communities that previously we could not access because of the size of the roadways. We can now transport heavier loads and bulkier waste because of the capabilities of the tipper trucks. But it gives us another capability, and that is in expanding our waste separation initiative. Now, the NSWMA has a waste separation program which is in a limited number of communities within the country. The intention is to increase the capabilities of the NSWMA so that we can now make it a national requirement for garbage separation. And for those who may not understand what we are speaking about when we say the separation of waste, we want to be able to pack our plastic waste separately from our organic and other forms of waste. In other words, because plastic is that kind of waste which is very difficult by itself to degrade, but it has the capability of being recycled if you, at the point of disposal, pack it separately from your other waste, then it adds an economic value to it because it is more easily recovered and more easily recycled. If you put all the waste together and then you dump it at the dump or at your sanitary landfill if you prefer, then somebody has to go through it and sort and separate. That adds an additional cost and takes away from the economic value. And so most countries now are instituting laws and policies to encourage their householders, their homeowners, their consumers to be conscious about how they dispose of their waste. And a part of that consciousness is to be deliberate in separating plastics and other forms of recyclable materials, paper and so forth, from your organic and other forms of waste. Jamaica will eventually go down that road. We have a roadmap for this, and we are already working out how that should be done. We have taken very progressive steps in dealing with plastics. We have implemented a ban on single-use plastics. We have instituted a program for the collection of plastic bottles around the country. And now, with the increased capabilities of the NSWMA, they can now collect several tons using their tipper trucks, using their cranes. They can now collect several tons of plastic waste. So if you separate it, the NSWMA will be able to collect it. That's the idea. Now, the number of trucks, remind me of this, 10? 10 tipper trucks? The number of tipper trucks that we have wouldn't be able to deploy this island-wide for all communities. But we are going to expand the number of communities in which we have this garbage separation initiative. We already have planned to institute garbage separation for public bodies and public entities, including schools. And that plan is being developed and will be rolled out shortly. But you can't roll out these plans without having all elements of it in place. So if we're going to ask people to separate, then we must have the capabilities to collect. So we're building the capabilities as we go along. Now, how will these trucks be distributed? The Western Parks and Markets, that is Trelawney, Hanover, St. James, and Westmoreland, they will get 11 trucks, including 1 crane truck, 2 scouts, 2 tippers, and 6 compactors. The MPM, that I suspect is the Metropolitan Parks and Markets, they will get, which includes Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, and St. Thomas, they will get 14 of these trucks, which include 1 crane truck, 2 scouts, 4 tippers, 5 compactors, and 2 compactors will be assigned to the commercial arm of MPM. The SPM Waste Management Limited, which includes Clarendon, Manchester, and St. Elizabeth, they will get 11 trucks to include 1 crane truck, 2 scouts, 2 tippers, and 6 compactors. And the NEPM, I suspect this is the Northeastern Parks and Market, they will get, which includes St. Anne, St. Mary, and Portland, they will get 9 trucks, which includes 1 crane, 2 scouts, 2 tippers, and 4 compactors. And additionally, 5 compactors will be allocated to the roving team. It has a very unique name, the Sweep Cop. So those of you who are on the Sweep Cop team, you will have 5 compactor trucks assigned to your duties. So we have distributed them evenly, essentially, around the island. This is not the last of the trucks to come. We need many more, at least twice what we have now, in order to be able to keep a schedule that would be effective in collecting all the waste that we generate. But the long-term solution is not for the government to be the one to operate these trucks and to be collecting garbage. In many jurisdictions around the world, this is a service that is contracted out and the government pays for it. What the government does is to monitor and regulate the separation of the role. Right now, the NSWMA, which by law has the duty to monitor and regulate, is also the person collecting the garbage. So the NSWMA intrinsically has to trade off regulating collection standards versus having to deal with the realities of the economy in order to just survive. Where we are heading is to have those two roles separated. And we are well down the wicket in developing a plan to have the garbage collection element of our municipal waste collection system, to have that divested. Now, whenever I talk about divestment, there's somebody going to say, what that mean? I'm going to have to pay for my garbage collection? Because we're not yet at the point where we understand that not every public service has to be delivered by the government. In fact, it is much more economical and efficient and oftentimes at a better quality of service if the government contracts out the service delivery to a private entity. And eventually, that is where we will have to reach. It has no impact on you, the homeowner, the consumer. You won't face any cost for that. But in terms of how the government structures itself for service delivery, contracting out that service is far more efficient. Because, you know, when you're government, you have to be thinking about all kinds of other things in terms of managing an entity versus when the entity is wholly and solely focused on just one thing. It can develop efficiencies and economies of scale, which governments can't. So the long-term solution for our problem, which we are very close to implementing, is to eventually divest this side of the public waste collection system for private contractors to operate. In any event, like it or not, that is partially the model that we now have. Because in the absence of government being able to purchase the trucks over these last 3 or so decades, we have had to contract with private compactor owners. But the way in which it has been done is we contract with a little person here, with another one here, and another one over there. And we haven't been able to truly get the scale that we have actually needed. So in effect, yes, the government not being able to fulfill its role in actually providing the trucks and providing the service, they have been contracting out. The government has been contracting out, but not at the scale and quality that is needed. And so we are now structuring a new program which will give us the scale and quality service without costing you anything more. And I think that is what the consumer would want to know. So the objective, therefore, is for the government's resources to reach to the point where buying 50 new trucks is a routine, that we don't have to keep a ceremony to celebrate garbage trucks. Consider it. But that is the state that we are recovering from, where there was such a deficit in the capital capabilities of the NSWMA, that because we have been able to do it not once but twice at this magnitude, it is something that the public has to take note of. And it is something that we have to bring to the minds of the public to remind them so that they don't take it for granted. But eventually, Jamaica is going to reach to that point where buying these trucks are standard. This is what we budget for every year in our normal and routine maintenance of our capital budget. But we're not there yet, but we are getting to that point. So, my friends, this is a significant moment. But the real moment is to come when Jamaica finally realizes its true potential as a powerful economy that has the resources to maintain and continue to invest in its capital capabilities to deliver the quality services that you need. As I close, in my budget presentation, I announced a $2.5 billion program to clean up Jamaica. We have started to structure that program to develop a way in which we're going to deliver this. It is not going to be like other cleanup programs that we have had. This program will have institution and endurance, meaning we'll put a structure in place to make sure that it is run by rules, it is transparent, it affords participation of the citizens, and the objectives are transparent and understood. And it will have endurance, meaning that it's not just for one budget cycle. We will do this for several budget cycles. And it will treat with not just the surface level problems, it will deal with the deeper problems that confront us. So as it relates to keeping our townships, our parks, our roadways clean, when you look at the composition of the waste that you see that offends us all, 90% of it is plastic. It's not orange peel. It's not so much paper. It is plastics. So this program will target the collection of plastics. So yes, there will be a component to remove bulky waste. There will be a component to generally clean important corridors, parks, and critical urban municipalities, town centers as you call them. But there will be a component where we will pay people to collect plastic and we will buy the plastic back from them. That's the objective. So in other words, we will create a market for waste plastics. And in that way, anyone could see an economic opportunity and decide now to start on their own to collect plastics because there is a market for its sale. So we're taking this allocation and we're going to use it to incentivize persons to assist with the collection of plastics. But it could even incentivize the consumers of plastics. Because if you realize that, yes, you could get some money off of this empty plastic bottle, instead of just tossing it through the window, you might put it in your bag and take it home and store it up until it reaches 50 pounds, and then you call one of the recycling companies and say, look, I have 50 pounds. They will send for it, or the NSWMA will come for it. And you get a smalls off it. So that's the whole idea. So we're taking creative approaches to solve this issue of the improper disposal of our waste in Jamaica. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure. Let us now go and inspect these trucks.
Prime Minister, thank you so much. Ahead of going to inspect the trucks, however, we do have a final bit of formalities to get on with here. I believe, Prime Minister, too, that everyone is happy that this has been a brief ceremony. So we've kept it going really brief. May I then ask Mr. Bruce Bicknell if he could come forward? There is a presentation, a few presentations for Bruce to do. Just right here, Bruce, since we're going to move real quickly. And we'll ask the Prime Minister. Actually, no, Bruce, if you could come right here for me so we can get the repeater banner. Bruce? You can get it? Okay, great. So, Prime Minister, if you could, you are the first. Then we'll ask the Minister, and Bruce is displaying the item being presented. Wonderful. May we then ask the Minister, the Honourable Desmond McKenzie? Who's next? And the Minister is followed by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, Mrs. Marsha Henry Martin. Then we have the Chairman of the Board of Directors of the NSWMA, Mr. Owen Ellington. And finally, the Executive Director of the NSWMA, Mr. Audley Gordon. We thank Tankweld as well, who's been an excellent partner in ensuring that our trucks are here. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful ceremony. Thank you, Bruce. Really appreciate it. The slogan, the tagline for the NSWMA, Jamaica's beauty is our collective duty. Well, certainly these trucks will ensure that we get the garbage cleaned up quickly. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's left up to all of us to ensure that we have a cleaner, better-looking Jamaica as well. The transformation is ongoing. You will see the changes right before your eyes, and one day you'll go, oh my gosh, this has really happened. Today is the start of it. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the team from the Jamaica Information Service. May I ask then Dr. Charlene Sharp, the Deputy Chairman of the NSWMA, to escort the team to inspect and cut the ribbon, heralding the official commissioning of the 50 trucks. We ask members of the media if you could go ahead, please, so that we are able to ensure that everyone is safe. So it's to my left that you walk. Dr. Sharp is taking the entire crew. And the officials there. The ribbon-cutting officials will include the Prime Minister, the Minister, the Permanent Secretary, the Chairman of the Board, and the Executive Director. The Executive Director should be cutting the ribbon as well, which means that he needs to be going. We thank you too. I see members of the Tourism Enhancement Fund who are here as well. Thank you. Wonderful, and on the NSWMA board. Ladies and gentlemen, and now we ask you to head to the back for the official ribbon cutting. Thank you so much for joining us for this brief ceremony. Please have a good afternoon.
collectors. They were not necessarily standardized, they were not necessarily modern, and the uptime on these contracted services would not be sufficient to give the public satisfaction. So in effect, we had a system that was suboptimal. The result of that is what you see every day when you drive into your municipal urban centers, in your parks, or just when you are trying to get rid of your own domestic waste, how long it takes for a truck to come. It's not just tardiness and inefficiency on the part of management. There's a real issue with capability. Just don't have the trucks. The first solution, therefore, is to make sure that we are running the economy in a responsible way so that we can have the resources to do what we're doing here. This is the second time that we have been able to purchase 50 trucks at a time. Since this administration, we have purchased 165 trucks. That's more than the NSWMA has ever had at any time. And still, it is not sufficient to the problem. We need to actually have double that amount to really start having an impact where schedules can be maintained and schedules can be more regular. I'm saying this for the average Jamaican to understand and appreciate the problem. No one wants to see garbage on their street. Everyone wants to see it collected. How is it done? It can't be done on a wish. It can't be done on a complaint. It can't be done by accusation and blame. Governments have to be very practical. They have to be very strategic. They have to look at the global nature of the problem and find a solution. And we have found the solution. Strategy number one, increase the capabilities of the NSWMA. So the NSWMA now has 50 additional new trucks. We have deployed them equitably across the island. It will mean that you could see a 10 to 20% improvement in garbage collection. But if you're coming from 30%, you know, you're now at between 40 and 50. It's still not enough, but it is going to be better than it was.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Now, in this fleet that we have just handed over to the NSWMA, we have included some new capabilities, including what you're seeing here, crane trucks, which the NSWMA only had one, which is not really operable right now. So for persons who would complain about abandoned vehicles on their roads or bulky waste on their roads, the NSWMA really doesn't have the internal capabilities to go and lift some of these heavy bulky waste. Now they do. So I'm expecting Minister and Audley a program to go around the island following the law and notifying persons who may claim ownership of these bulky waste, that you're going to now do an island-wide campaign to take up that bulky waste. We now have some capabilities with tipper trucks, so we will now be able to do more collection of plastics, and we probably would be able to do more industrial and construction waste, that kind of heavy, bulkier waste to carry. So we have increased the capabilities of the NSWMA. The long-term solution is to have this entire garbage collection service properly contracted out in a public-private partnership arrangement. And that is being worked on as we speak and should come to fruition very soon. So I'm confident that Jamaicans will begin to see an improvement in the collection of their municipal waste.